Geralt raised his head abruptly. Down the path, scrunching the gravel, a monster was rushing straight at him. The creature was humanoid and dressed in clothes which, though tattered, were of good quality and not lacking in stylish and useless ornamentation. His human form, however, reached no higher than the soiled collar of his tunic, for above it loomed a gigantic, hairy, bear-like head with enormous ears, a pair of wild eyes, and terrifying jaws full of crooked fangs in which a red tongue flickered like flame. In the Elder Scrolls universe, Therianthropy, the ability to shapeshift from human to animal form, is rather simplistic. Created by the Daedric Prince Hircine, the power comes in the form of a transmitted disease, passed from a were-creature to a victim through bites and scratches. In controlled cases, drinking the blood of a Therianthrope acts as a more potent means of passing the disease, granting an immediate intense transformation. The disease has medicinal as well as ritual cures, meaning that most unwilling recipients can easily be rid of their affliction. In the world of The Witcher, however, things are not so clear-cut. You can't simply seek out an alchemist, or call for the aid of the divines. Therianthropes in this world are cursed. Sometimes they are cursed as punishment for their sins, other times they are cursed without good reason, simply caught up in the affairs of malevolent sorcerers and witches. To these poor souls, there is no potion or incantation that can alleviate their woes. Whether they like it or not, they may wake up beneath the full moon, dazed and confused, the metallic taste of blood fresh on their tongues, surrounded by the mangled corpses of loved ones. In other cases, the cursed one may not be fortunate enough to have the privilege of their human form, as they exist as a mindless beast indefinitely, too bestial to seek help. The companions of Skyrim glorify their affliction. They are in control. They use their savage forms to their advantage. In the Witcher world, such a proposition is madness, and Therianthropes wouldn't wish their curse upon their worst enemies. Hey guys, it's Drew here and welcome back to FudgeMuppet. In this video I thought I'd explore the werewolves of the Witcher universe, but in carrying out my research, I realised just how divergent each Therianthrope is. They are classed not as beasts, but as cursed ones in the bestiary for a reason. The circumstances of their afflictions vary wildly, and a witcher's task is made more difficult by the fact that each individual creature has a unique cure. That is of course if you choose to seek a cure at all. In many cases, a quick death on the edge of your silver blade is entirely justified. If you saw my most recent Witcher video, you'll know my claim that the Witcher world is like a fairy tale in many regards, with poetic curses and morals intertwined in every tale. Only these fairy tales do not come with the promise of happy endings. Keep that in mind as we explore the many were-creatures Geralt encounters in his journeys along the Witcher's path. Baron Wolfstein buried his face in his hands. His heart was throbbing. Suddenly the scent of his wife's blood and the blood of his children intensified. The Baron's body swelled as his muscles grew. His noble attire fell in tatters on the marble floor. "My beloved, you are so hairy. You are a werewolf." Bianca went pale. "What about our love?" In reply she heard a terrifying roar. Before we tackle the striggers, the boars, the bears, the hedgehogs, the toads and the birds, it seems appropriate to begin with the lycanthropes, the werewolves. These are by far the most common kind of cursed one you'll find, and Geralt deals with many of them in his line of work. Just to clarify, while lycanthropy is often used as a blanket term for were-creatures, it's worth pointing out that the etymology of the word can be traced back past Latin, all the way to the Greek words lukos and anthropos, meaning literally wolf man. So when I say lycanthrope, I'm specifically talking about werewolves, not werebears, werecats, or any other subsets. According to the bestiary, werewolves are creatures with both men and wolves inside them. When in beastly form, they take the worst traits of each, the wolf's drive to kill and hunger for raw flesh, and the man's cruel and calculating intelligence. When they revert to human form, they have no memory of their deeds. A werewolf's condition comes about through a curse, and these curses can at times be lifted, yet there is no universal, surefire method for doing this. Werewolves are not uncommon on the Witcher's path, and some of them have quite interesting stories. Take Nielen for example. This hunter and devoted husband was cursed with lycanthropy, and in order to protect his family, he went to great lengths to keep his savage secret away from them. He kept track of his transformations as best he could, knowing that they occurred only at night and usually under the influence of a full moon. It almost seemed to Nielen that he had his curse under control, until one night, his wife Hannah went missing. Nielen sought out Geralt's help, hoping the Witcher's superior senses could pick up his wife's trail. It turns out that Nielen's sister-in-law Margaret was in love with Nielen, despite knowing of his curse. She lured Hannah to Nielen's hiding place during one of his transformations, with the intention of scaring her away and leaving Nielen for Margaret. This plan fatally backfired, as in his werewolf form, Nielen had slaughtered his beloved wife. Of course, in this form, Nielen had no memory nor control. With so little information about Nielen's curse revealed, and no real means to figure out how to lift it, Nielen's fate was all but sealed. Geralt could either protect Margaret, killing Nielen in a ferocious duel, or he could step aside, granting Nielen his revenge, before putting the heartbroken hunter out of his misery. But what about a werewolf with the potential to be freed from his curse? Well, the pirate named Morkvarg's curse is particularly harsh, a horrible punishment for a life of horrible crimes. Morkvarg, with his crew in tow, spent his days pillaging and raping. He was said to fear nothing short of the wrath of the gods. In this pirate, pride was as prevalent as cruelty, and this rumour of fearing the gods was one he wished to dispel. So he took his band of brigands to ransack Freya's garden, known for its beauty and the thousands of fragrant blooms and herbs planted in honour of the eponymous goddess. Morkvarg proudly displayed his relentless cruelty, butchering helpless priestesses and clergywomen to honour his enormously fragile ego. This deed proved too grotesque even for his outlaw comrades, and one pirate, a man named Einar, cursed him with the power of an enchanted wolf pendant given to him by his father. Morkvarg's monstrous act was met with a monstrous reward. Morkvarg was bound to the garden for eternity. He was forced to endure in wolf form indefinitely, and he was bestowed with an immense hunger that could not be satiated by food nor prey, for it would turn to ash in his mouth. Along with this suffering came immortality, for if a monster hunter killed Morkvarg, the wolf would be resurrected to begin the cycle anew. Unlike Nielen, we have a much better idea of what caused Morkvarg's curse, and it is possible to reverse it. If Morkvarg is fed his own flesh, he will be freed from his eternal affliction. However, he will die without reassuming his human form. If Geralt tracks down Einar, the man who cursed him, he will come into possession of a fang, imbued with the power to lift the curse. With these examples, we have a pretty good understanding of werewolves, but how about those cursed ones afflicted with other kinds of bestial transformations? There are 2 documented cases of werecats in Geralt's adventures, but scarce little is known about them. The first of these werecats is a man named Anton the Elder, and the second was his son, suggesting that Therianthropy can actually be a hereditary curse. If you think Therianthropy is in some way a romantic curse, half man, half ferocious beast, well, I sincerely doubt you'll feel that way about were-rats. Yes, some sorry sods are cursed to transform into vermin, where they plague the sewers, ambushing lost adventurers in mischiefs. Mischief being the rather fitting collective noun for a group of rats. Geralt tells a tale of a priest from Rivia who was killed by such beasts. And were it not for the abundance of drowners sharing similar habitats, there would likely be many more were-rats wandering the sewers beneath great cities. Werebears are well documented, especially across the Isles of Skellige. In Skellige, werebears are known as berserkers, and they are glorified by warriors for their savage strength. In fact, there exists a brotherhood in the Ardskellig Highlands named the Vild Karl, devoted to the ancient god of war, Svalblod. Svalblod proclaimed to his worshippers but one commandment: kill. The Vild Karl warriors live only to kill, and they only eat what they themselves hunt. All blood spilled by these men is done so in sacrifice to Svalblod, and they undergo ancient rituals to gift themselves with the curse of Therianthropy, specifically to become werebears. While the vast majority of cursed ones transform into wolves or bears, there are some fascinating individual examples leading me to believe that with the right curse, a witch or sorcerer could turn a human into any beast imaginable. There was once a Baron of Ham named Freixenet, who after falling out with his betrothed, was cursed and turned into a cormorant. His sister, Eliza Queen of Verdun, tried every wives' tale cure she knew, going as far as to wear a shirt made from stinging nettles. Shockingly, this didn't work, and it took a witch's appraisal to reverse the curse. Geralt was successful, but Freixenet was never quite able to overcome his taste for fresh fish. As is the case with many of the stories found in this universe, the tale of Freixenet was likely inspired by one of the Brothers Grimm's fairy tales. This one being the tale of the 6 swans, in which an evil stepmother sews 6 magical shirts and gives them to her stepsons, turning them into swans. A similar curse was laid upon the blonde beauty Vivian in Duchess Anna Henrietta's entourage. A creature residing deep within the Caraberta woods of Toussaint envied Vivian's parents for their happiness, and it cursed their unborn child. Vivian's mother had wished her daughter would be as beautiful as the orioles in the forest's canopy, and with the curse in effect, Vivian at age 15 began to experience the feathery symptoms. Her transformation was gradual, initially only occurring during a full moon, but then becoming permanent. With magical ointments, she kept the curse at bay, and she experienced a brief respite from the curse's grip when she visited the glade her parents once frequented. The curse proved too strong to dispel, but it was possible to transfer the curse to another willing participant, or to an unhatched oriole egg, the latter solution leaving her with only the 7-year life expectancy of an oriole. There is also the tale of the Toad Prince of Ophir, cursed by none other than Olgierd von Everick. The love-struck Olgierd would do anything to secure Iris's hand, only her parents wished to betroth her to the exotic foreign prince Servat. In retaliation, Olgierd channeled his Goetia, his knowledge of demonology, to transform the prince into a hideous amphibian. Servat was no fairy tale frog, and even the kiss of a comely maiden would not return him to human form. The creature they encountered was no small sweet frog, but a bloodthirsty beast, who not only did not let them in for a kiss, but instead greedily devoured them and anything else that strayed into its slime-covered lair. Even the most powerful man on the continent is not immune to such curses, as we see through the formative years of Emir var Emrys, the emperor of the mighty Nilfgaardian Empire. Emir was the heir apparent to the throne of Nilfgaard. That was until his father was deposed, and a usurper stripped him of his birthright. To humiliate the young prince, the usurper's sorcerer cursed him. In the Nilfgaardian dialect, Ymir roughly translates to urchin, an old name for a hedgehog. And so, the curse transformed Emir's head into that of an urchin, only returning back to normal at night. He was released in the forests, and the hounds were sicked on his trail. But Emir survived, and some years later, he rescued the king of Sintra, evoking the law of surprise. 15 years later, he came to collect, asking for the hand of young Pavetta of Sintra. Unwilling to part with her daughter, the queen tricked Emir into showing his monstrous visage. Urchin slowly raised his armoured hand, pulled at the helmet's fastenings, grabbed it by the iron horn and threw it against the floor with a crash. Someone shouted, someone swore, someone sucked in a breath with a whistle. Above the wide, semicircular breastplate, 2 bulbous black button eyes looked out. Eyes set either side of a blunt, elongated muzzle, covered in reddish bristles and full of sharp white fangs. Urchin's head and neck bristled with a brush of short, grey, twitching prickles. Despite this unsettling sight, Pavetta gave herself to her destined suitor, and Emir's curse was lifted. Someday, their love would bring Ciri into the world. And finally, there is the story of Neverland, one of the first beasts we meet in Geralt's adventures, when he stumbles upon the courtyard of an eerily quiet mansion. The creature suddenly gasped and tilted his monstrous head. He spoke calmly, baring his fangs and glowering at Geralt with bloodshot eyes. Lower that iron if you please, perhaps you've not realised you're in my courtyard. Or maybe it's customary, wherever you come from, to threaten people with swords in their own courtyards. The creature spat, gasped and shut his jaws. The lower fangs protruded, making him look like a boar. What follows is an amusing dinner shared between Geralt and this bewildering beast. He is simultaneously nightmarish, with the head of a predatory animal, but also courteous, with the immaculate etiquette of a nobleman. The monster sat at the table, lowered his head, clasped his hairy paws over his stomach, muttered something while twiddling his enormous thumbs, then suddenly roared, thumping the table with his paw. Neverland had been born into a band of cutthroats and highwaymen, and one day, while his gang was ransacking a temple, Neverland had been coerced into raping a young priestess there. Before killing herself, the woman spat in his face and cursed him, calling him a monster in a man's skin, saying that he will become a monster in a monster's skin. The only hope for a reversal had something to do with blood and a loved one. Neverland lived alone with his curse for some time, hiding his beastly maw from the public. One day he spied a merchant trespassing on his courtyard, and with his imposing presence and powerful roar, Neverland demanded a payment from the man. Neverland ordered the man give him his daughter, saying that she must live with him for the period of 1 year. This led ultimately to a string of young women coming to live with Neverland for a year each, and leaving at the end of the year with golden gemstones. One of these women chose to stay, and fell in love with the monster. This woman was a powerful Bruxa named Verena. Geralt battles the Bruxa, and is on the verge of defeat before Neverland appears to distract his love. Verena, certain her life was over, wished to depart the world with her lover, and attempted to kill Neverland. Geralt kills Verena. Her blood, which was spattered over Neverland and the cobblestones, combined with his broken heart, undoes the curse. In great pain, the two men hobble across the courtyard. "There's a grain of truth in every fairy tale," said the Witcher quietly. "Love and blood. They both possess a mighty power. Wizards and learned men have been racking their brains over this for years. They haven't arrived at anything except that it has to be true love. No potion, no viral or bacterial infections. Were creatures in the Witcher world come about through curses. As is almost always the case in this universe, the stories unfolding on Geralt's journey are a bizarre mixture of fairy tale romanticism and the cruel indifference of reality." And there you have it, guys, the truth of were creatures and cursed ones in the Witcher world. I hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks so much for watching. I've been Drew, and I'll see you in the next one.